Okay, so I think we have almost everyone here. So I am going to hand over to Anna-Mai Andrews, who is the co-CEO of Chance for Childhood. Over to you.
Thanks so much, Alice, and thanks to everyone for joining us today. I'll just do a quick intro for those of you who don't know me. I'm the co-CEO of Chance for Childhood, and I've been working with the organisation for the last 10 years, specifically to try and develop these interventions that address the intersectionality between the different sorts of settings that vulnerable children find themselves within, and the special learning needs and associated disabilities that we really feel still needs so much more attention moving forward. So without further ado, I know you're all here to hear about the technical paper, and Anselm will be talking a lot about that and the huge gaps that we discovered through some amazing research that was funded by Vittel, and helped us to identify that 44% of children, which is a phenomenal number, within the Chaka refugee settlement in northern Uganda had a learning or communication disability. I mean, that's a huge amount of children, and that sort of just demonstrates lots of the rest of the research that we've done. Only 2% of children in the schools were identified as having a disability, and that doesn't add up. Where are these children? You know, they're isolated at home, not having access to these schools, and we really need to address that. So I think that's what we want to talk about today. We want to hear from our participants who have travelled for a long way to be here with us. So we're just to say a huge thank you to them as well. It's not, unfortunately, the wide web is not that accessible in Chaka. So, you know, Sandra has come all the way down to Kampala to be with us, and they're there with Stephen as well, who's our phenomenal community-based partner. So I'm just going to pass over to a short video for you all now. Thank you. Thank you, Amara, that's great. And just over to our panel now, really, because they're the experts and they're the people that you want to hear from. So over to Anselm, who was responsible for pulling together the paper, and he's also been working across Uganda, but this paper was specifically on the refugee settlements. Over to you, Anselm, for your intro. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna-Mai. I would like to introduce myself. Thank you so much for the opportunity accorded to me today to speak to this audience. I'm Anselm Wandega, the country representative for Chance for Childhood here in Uganda. For the last 16 years, I've been working so hard to advance the rights and promote the welfare of children in adversity in Africa. I was part of the team that designed the ECO program that is being implemented in Chaka refugee settlement. And I also co-authored the technical guidance note on inclusive education in Uganda amidst COVID-19. We did this together with the Inclusive Education Task Team under the Ministry of Education and Sports in Uganda. At this moment, I would like to use this platform to remember our fallen comrade in this struggle for inclusive education, Rita. Rita was the former executive director of AWAD. She also founded AWAD, our partner in this ECO program. During the design of the ECO program, Rita ensured that the voices of children and caretakers and their parents in the refugee settlement of Chaka were integrated in the program. And as we continue implementing this action, we will never forget Rita and her contribution to humanity. Thank you.
Thank you, Anselm. And I know a lot of us will be taking a minute in silence to remember Rita, who sadly we lost to COVID last year. So over to Stephen, who has done a phenomenal job to try and step into her shoes, which is not easy, and I would, which is doing amazing work. Please do introduce yourself, Stephen.
Thank you very much, Anamai. I'm Stephen Boyo Wamono, currently working as the Interim Executive Director of AWAD. AWAD is African Women and Youth Action for Development, a local NGO working in Uganda. And our focus is on children, youth, and women, especially in the refugee settlements and other vulnerable places. As a person, I'm very passionate about children, especially children with disabilities and with other vulnerabilities. I do everything to ensure that they get a smile in their lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephen. That's a lovely way to end your intro. And last, but perhaps, definitely the voice that we are most interested in listening to, I'd like to introduce Sandra, who's come a long way to be with us and talk about her experience as a caregiver for a child with disabilities. Over to you, Sandra.
My name is Ngalula Sandra. I'm a refugee from Chakatu, refugee settlement. I came from Congo. I ran a war which happened in Congo in 2009. And I am a single mother with 3 children. One of them has disability, paralyzed one side of the body. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you very much. So just to clarify the structure of the webinar, please do ask us questions all the way through. This is very much a learning for us as much as for all of you in terms of knowledge sharing. And that's why we're all here today, to try and change things. And I know we're all here for that reason. And at the end, we will have open questions with the panel. So please do keep that line of questioning through. And first of all, I just want to ask Anselm to touch on the main 3 findings from the paper in terms of what it means for inclusive education in emergency settings. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anamai. Yeah, first, from the technical guidance note that we put together, children had missed 60% of the 840 learning hours, especially for the first time since March 2020, when the schools were closed. And as of now, these hours have increased. And most of those children who missed these learning hours were children with disabilities. We also found out that many parents and caregivers of children with disabilities do not have specialized skills to support their children to learn. Can you imagine? You come across this parent, a single mother. She has to wake up in the morning, get out and look for food for her children, some of whom have disabilities. She has to step out because the food rations have reduced in the settlement. in addition to looking for food, she has to ensure that her children continue to study. But she cannot realize this because it is a rural setting, it is a refugee settlement, and the program to continue learning requires her to have a TV, to have a radio, to access a newspaper, to access a smartphone, or data to ensure that her children with disabilities actually learn. This does not happen. Now, this parent may, let's say, get these things, get a TV, get a radio, but she has not been trained to supervise her children's learning. And so they go without learning. Even then, this parent cannot read and write. So even when she accesses a newspaper or another material to support her children's learning, she can't support them. As such, children with disabilities were not learning. This is likely to increase the education inequality gap in this country unless something is done. In addition, we found out that there was limited data on children with disabilities and all special education needs. Very challenging. Without comprehensive and adequate data on disabilities and special education needs, planning and budgeting for this category of children becomes very difficult. On a positive note, we found out that there were some children who were learning in small groups of 5 to 15. But to ensure this happens, a lot had been done by our partner. And this model of small group learning is one of the things that we would like to take forward in our ECO program. Thank you.
Thanks, Lemon. Thanks for drawing us in on the isolation and the loneliness that not only the children feel, but their entire families, and of course a huge stigma that children with disabilities and their families face. And you know, the resource issue is a critical one. Only 0.1% of the budget is allocated to special learning needs in Uganda currently, despite the data demonstrating the huge numbers of children who need it. So it'd be great, Anselm, if you could touch a little bit on you know, the sustainable strategies for meeting some of these immense challenges. And we do not feel we have all the answers, but just if you could share a little bit about what we're doing with the EQUAL project. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna-Mai. So under EQUAL is where all our strategies are. And we are implementing in a way that we ensure this is sustainable. So we are building the future for about 1,100 out-of-school children. And these include out-of-school girls, out-of-school children with disabilities, and out-of-school children from households with experiencing extreme economic vulnerabilities. Some of these children have never stepped in school. And so this will be the very first time for them to look at a blackboard. We are speaking about children in Chakatu refugee settlement. Given the intersecting vulnerabilities that these children are experiencing, we are taking an integrated approach. We are looking at improving the economic capacities of parents and caregivers to support their children. We are looking at upscaling teachers and learning support assistants to teach at the right level. We are also looking at, through dialogues, building a society that is inclusive and safeguards children. But most importantly, we are looking at screening all children for disabilities using our mobile screening tool for disabilities. I would like to speak briefly about our innovation, the mobile disability screening tool. This was tested in Rwanda, piloted, and it was able to screen children with disabilities, and over 4,000 children benefited by returning to school and are still in school. These are children with disabilities. As a result of our work in Rwanda, the government of Rwanda acknowledged the model and integrated it into its educational system. As we speak now, it is part of the educational system and all children have to be screened for disabilities. This tool is easy to use. It is accessible. It also looks at the entire spectrum of disabilities. And so as a parent or caregiver or any other person interested in supporting children with disabilities and all special education needs, it is the first line of ensuring that you get information about the children who have these challenges. It is also a source of information which can be used by caregivers, parents, and the government to plan and budget for children with disabilities, since we all know that there is a dearth of data around disability and special education needs in this country. Thank you. Anna-Mai.
Thank you, Anselm, and also thank you for drawing our attention to the spectrum and to remember that there are many disabilities that are hidden and invisible, and more resources required and understanding and knowledge building in this field. So Stephen, without further ado, I'd just like to pass over to you to reflect a little bit on obstacles and challenges. I'm sure there are many, but if you could just draw on the critical ones to achieving inclusive education within the environment that I would works within, how is it really to try and implement programs in a refugee setting?
Thank you very much, Anna-Mai. As you say, there are so many challenges and obstacles to inclusive education, but I will highlight just but a few. One of them is a huge number of children learning, and how does this affect inclusive education? When we have many children in class, children with disability tend to be not supported by teachers. And as a result, they tend to lose interest in learning and end up dropping out of school. Another challenge is the inadequate skills on inclusive education among teachers. As you may be informed, in most of the refugee settlements, the teachers we have are not really professional teachers. We have people who are volunteering, who were formerly administrators, engineers, from different fields, who have come in the settlements, but because of lack of jobs and the need for teachers, they are sacrificing to teach. So they do not have much skills in providing inclusive education. Another challenge is the lack of access to assistive devices for children with disabilities. Find many children are carried just like Sandra here. She just carries her child to school and brings her back. So it is a huge challenge. We went to one of the homes and found one of the children not learning, a child with disability. And when we asked why, she said she cannot hear. And the teacher said, I also don't have skills to teach such a child. It is a difficult moment. So it's a challenge, and more so that now there's dwindling funding, assistive devices are not prioritized for education. Another key challenge is the high level of stigma for children with disabilities in school and also in the community. Most people, especially for children with mental disability, people regard them as children who should not be in school, they look at them as mad people. So as a result, we don't pay attention. People don't pay attention. Teachers don't pay attention because they don't expect such children to pick things and learn. Then also there are tensions and conflicts within refugee settlements. Especially there was a case where we had refugee children going to a host community school to learn. And one day there was a small fight between a refugee child and a host community child. And that one became a full-blown conflict. And in the end, the host community resolved that all children from the refugee settlement should not go to their school. And when such conflicts happen, the children with disability are the most affected because they can't fight, they can't run, and in the end, they will say, we will not go back to that school. Another key obstacle this year, these 2 years, of course, as we all know, has been COVID-19. All the measures that have been brought in place for catch-up learning have not supported children with disability to learn, especially measures and other humanitarian partners. So as we talk now, majority of the children with disabilities have been left behind. That's the few I can talk about for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you so much for sharing those very challenging situations. And in terms of collaboration or partners who are coordinating with you within this work that you're doing, could you reflect a little bit on who's been able to help in this space?
We have worked with a number of partners to do some small scale interventions where we are organizing children to learn in small groups at community level. Although these have also had a challenge that most of the small group learning lack facilitators. We don't have someone to facilitate. And even if there is a facilitator, still this facilitator cannot support much this child with disability in the group. So that's a challenge, but it's one of the approaches we have been trying to reach, because the broad interventions by government, such as television learning, radio learning, and online learning are not attainable for refugee children. Another intervention that we are discussing with partners is the possibility of doing remedial classes for children, these children who have been left behind to catch up. And so we hope that when schools start, we can start implementing the double shift schooling approach to enable children access school. Then in terms of coordination, we normally have meetings at the settlement level. We have the education working group at the Chaka refugee settlement level, where education partners come together to discuss strategies and challenges of how we can bring support and access to children with disability access learning. Then also we share through these coordination mechanism, we share lessons and interventions that we are doing. And we hope that through the ECO project, we hope to share a number of learnings which other partners can pick from, especially the screening tool, which is unique because we've not had it in the settlement before. We hope is something that we can share with others and they learn from it. Also, we hope to share lessons because this ECO project is a unique one. to supplement a number of interventions that we are doing with our partners. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Stephen. And then you've answered one of the questions that came from Suzanne in terms of if people can get a hold of the screening toolkit. So we will make sure we do share the learnings that we're making in terms of context-specific adaptation to the Ugandan context. So obviously that was done first of all in Rwanda, and it has been adapted to the Rwandan climate and accredited by the government. And we obviously do hope that that same approach will be taken by the Ugandan government and other governments. For example, the Ghanaian government is now interested. We're working with the Ghanaian Education Services to scale up the approach. So if anyone has any interested in working with us on this, please do drop us a line through email and we'll make sure we contact you. So I do want to make sure we have time to talk to Sandra, because I think there is no one who can speak to this better than her, in terms of just for us all to take a moment to remember that, these are real situations, real people and real children. And for you, Sandra, we just love to hear a little bit about your experience as a caregiver, and any support that you've had in this process, and your own experiences. Thank you.
Yeah, the experience I have taking care of a child who has disability. The child who has disability, taking care of her is very hard and very difficult, because like my child, she cannot walk, she cannot bathe herself, she cannot even take herself to school. I have to do all of that. I have to take her to school. I have to bathe her. Even if she wants to go to the toilet, I have to take her. And even at home, other work I have to do it. I have to look for firewood. I have to look for food. And you find sometimes even that child to go to school, it's very difficult, because sometimes I don't even get a time taking her to school. And even if she's there at school, no one can help her. Maybe she wants to go to the toilet. There's no anyone who can help her or assist her to take her to the toilet or to do another activity at the school. And all of that, it's very difficult, even apart from the child. And another challenge as a parent, to get a wheelchair is very hard to me, because that child, right now she's going up and I cannot even be carrying her every time. Like she want to go somewhere, because she always sits. Because she always sits, she cannot move. I have to carry her, and to get her a wheelchair is very hard. And that one I see as a parent a child with disability, it's very difficult to taking care of that child.
And just so that everyone's aware, this is one of 7 children that you have to care for as well, isn't it? So this is a phenomenal young lady we have in front of us here. And how did you become involved with IWOD? How have they helped you in?
How I become involved in this project, because IWOD come in our village teaching parents how to take care of children with a disability, and even teach us as a parent to have a group for those parents who are taking care of children. And because in that group can help even us to be saving some small money and borrow even and get some income. That income can help even children at home. And even sometimes they give us trainings, meeting awareness in our community about children with disability.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. And in the future, what would you like to see? What changes would you like to see? I've caught her off guard now. She hasn't prepared.
In the future, if there's anything,
if there was more funding, what would you like to see?
As we parents who have children with disability, would like if there's any support in our camp, Like for these children who can't walk, they help them with a wheelchair, even assistant who can assist them at school. Like for those one who cannot see from far, they help them with glasses. And for those one who cannot walk, they help them with this stick of walking. And as a parent, to support us with the small loans so that we can improve our income and help our families.
Thank you so much, Sandra, for sharing your experiences. And we all will be working to try and do more to help you and the needs of your children, all of them. But particularly just referencing how hard it is and how much more needs to be done, and approaches need to be holistic and integrated. And as you said, they need to look at the wide spectrum of disabilities, that they are all very different and they need to be dealt with within individualized approaches. And that is part of the screening process, isn't it? Just recognizing that a child with disability, they are very different. Even if you have a child with disability within a certain broad categorization such as deaf, that child can experience very different challenges or opportunities. So yeah, I'd just like to open the board for questions now. I don't know if the panelists would like to add anything before we do that. Anselm, over to you. Is there anything, final words you'd like to add before we have questions?
Yeah, so thank you so much, Anna-Mai. I think what I need to add is that hearing from Sandra and from Steve, there is a lot of potential in the work that we do in Uganda, but there's also a huge gap that we need to fill moving forward. Thank you so much, Anna-Mai, back to you.
Thank you. Anybody like to ask some questions? Who's going to be brave in the audience? Whilst we're waiting for questions to come through, oh, here we have one. How did all the organizations come to work together? So how was this relationship formed between all of us today? So I don't know whether Stephen or Anselm, you'd like to talk about the long-term partnerships that we hold with community-based partners, and I guess a little bit on how there's no short-term fix here.
Thank you very much for the question. Award and Chance for Childhood have had a long-term partnership. We've known each other for quite a number of years, and we have worked together on different project interventions in the north, in the west, and different parts of Uganda. So coming together to do this project of equal is not a new thing. It's something that we came together, first of all, to do an assessment, to find out the needs of children with disability and out of school girls. From the assessment, then we were able to come up with a project proposal and got funding, and now we are implementing the project together. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. Right, lots of questions here, so I'm going to rattle through a little bit, and maybe we can join a couple of them. So in terms of Cliff's question, the teachers will be volunteers of a sort. I believe they're stipends. Do you want to elaborate on that, Anselm?
Yes, so we will be having the learning support assistants who are basically passionate people who have completed secondary level of education, and young, energetic people who are very many actually. Just to note that the population of young people in Uganda who are under 30 is about 80%. So this would be an opportunity for them to work as learner support assistants, and they will be supported with a stipend on a monthly basis. as they do support the children to learn.
I guess just to add to that question, this is not specific actually to the Ugandan context, but we are looking at working with the special education graduate program trainees. So that's the case in Ghana, where people are graduating with now specific educational skills in working with children with disabilities, but they're yet to get jobs. So that's an initiative that we've got with Government of Ghana at the moment to look into, and it's something we'd like to replicate in Uganda, but we're not quite there yet. So anyone who has thoughts on how that can be pushed forward. Yeah, I think there was a really great question about play-based learning, which is of course really, really critical. So if you could maybe touch a little bit more, Stephen or Anslem, on like the actual support that we give to try to move away a bit from this formalized training approach that some of the teachers are more used to, and how we are adapting that teaching style into a more sort of play-based appropriate style that is more engaging.
Yeah, so we are looking at developing a package actually to a training and mentorship package for these the learner support assistants and teachers, and this will be delivered over time. And this actually the package enables them to teach at the right level. Teaching at the right level means that they really understand the particular needs of each of the children and the tailors support to each of the children, and do this in a very stimulating learning environment, looking at all avenues for learning. Thank you. My colleague, Stephen, would like to add something.
Great, thanks, Stephen.
Actually, I wanted to add, but I think Anselm has explained it well. Just in the interest of time, I may not say much.
Thank you. Thanks, Stephen. Okay, no problem at all. Yeah, I guess I should just add that we have associate partners who work across different like spectrums, whether it's speech and language therapy. So we've been quite integrated with the speech and language department, and they also come up with lots of different scenarios and adaptations which are locally appropriate. So we have different interventions that we've been pushing forward, which are based towards, yeah, that sort of play-based methodologies, how we can also come up with assistive devices from local materials, and that in itself can be, I've seen some really great workshops that we've done where people have used really low resource, materials all around us to say, okay, this can be a toy and this can encourage that child to play, because often some of these children have been entirely, in a state of isolation and neglected. It takes a long time. There is no quick fix. We're not assuming one day to the next that a child is just suddenly going to be learning alongside their peers at the same level, and maybe Sandra can close with some her feelings on this, in terms of how your child has adapted with the support, and I think this question is really, really touching, isn't it? How can we as the international community do better? How can we do better to support you and your family?
How can they do better to support you?
I think they could help me, my child, to go back to school and even get a wheelchair. And even if she's at the school, she will be with someone who can be helping her there at the school. But even me, I will be happy with my family, because a future, even someone who has disability can work and is supposed to do anything in her life.
And if you had just someone to take your child to school, that would enable you to support the rest of your family, presumably, just to share that. At the moment, because of the heavy level of care that you also can't then go to work because you have to care for your child. So there's this conflicting priority in your life currently. Need some help with translation there, Anton.
Yeah, so if you have someone to help you with the child, take her to school, bring her, you get more time to do other things to support the family, and you lessen the burden on yourself.
Yeah. If I get someone who can take care of her dad at school, taking her to school, it can even help me, because I have some small business, like a salon. I'm working in a salon, and the time I'm taking care on her, taking her to schools, to find some time they are looking for me in my salon, and they didn't get the time to be at home taking care of the child, even to the salon, looking for money. It will be very hard to me. But if I get someone who could be helpful, it can even help me with my family.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for touching on that. And I mean, we don't have the time now to go into the livelihoods intervention that is interlinked into this project. I know someone asked about it, but we've seen really, really strong evidence that supporting this small loans, small grants, helping parents like Sandra to set up small businesses that are actually something they can do from their home or locally, so that they can make them, you know, a living for themselves and support their own child. Because you know, Sandra, you want to live independently and you want your child to have that independence of you as well, and we have a responsibility to support these children, and that's why we're all here. And you know, just to thank everybody, especially you, Sandra, and Stephen, who came this long way to talk to us, but to thank everybody for all they're doing for these children, but to say it's still just not enough. It's not enough, and we need to do more, and we need to remember that they are the most vulnerable, and it is our responsibility to help them. Thank you. So unless anyone has any further questions, I think we'll end the webinar. I think we've covered everything now. Thank you. Thanks, Paul, for joining. And do please contact us. We've got your emails. Anyone else, drop us a line with your emails and we will be in touch. You know, we're here to support and learn and, yeah, share. Thanks so much, Susan. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Sophia. Oh, brilliant. Everyone, and we'll collate the emails as well, for sure.
All right, I think everyone has gone now. Just to say thank you, guys. That was awesome. I can't believe, yeah, people came. I think they were up to 18 or 20 at some point.
Oh, that's
which
great.
is a good turnout.
Yeah.
Yeah.